Hello. Good morning, jewelry makers. It's Tracy here at TierraCast. Have a great jewelry demo for you today, I think. I love these earrings. They are our Longhorn Teardrop earrings, so named because they have our new Longhorn Charm that came out with our recent Wild West collection launch. And they have the our stitch around teardrops, which we created. Gosh, I think it was our Hammertone collection, Hammertone editions, 2 years ago. They're a great component, a very versatile component. Hello, Robin. Looking at watching some people pop in here, and they also have. Actually, let me put this down and show you one of the earrings instead. That's just a better way to see them. And then they have our wonderful new little concho earring post, which is a delightful little new earring post design, which is, so the theme of our Western collection was a strong part of the design development was the inspiration of traditional silver work and a Western style jewelry making. So conchos are just a strong theme in that kind of work. So our product development manager, Kirsten, really kind of used that influence in some of her design development. And so this cute little post it has that concho feel, but it's also quite neutral. I mean, it's a lovely design that you can adapt to other sort of themes for your jewelry. It doesn't have to be a Western design, is what I'm trying to say. That's also one of the parts in this particular earring. So I'm going to go ahead and switch my camera. I don't actually. Give me 1 second. I'm going to check the usual places and see if we're streaming as we should be. See if there's any troubleshooting that needs to happen. You know, sometimes that happens. I've had some pretty good tech luck lately. I should knock on some wood because you just never know what's going to happen. I do see some activity on the Facebook live stream, so that's great. Hello, everybody. I see Jenny and I see Shelly. Yay. Glad to see you guys. Shelly says, love those earrings, and they are they're one of my designs. I do the bulk of the jewelry design for our product launches. Every once in a while, Kirsten or Julie will have a great idea, and we'll work with that as well. But these were my babies, and I love them. They're so lush, and they look like they might be heavy, but the jump rings that I use are light gauge, so so overall they're not too heavy, maybe a little heavier than an earring that I would wear for an everyday basis, but definitely a good one for dressing up or special occasions. I'm going to go ahead and switch my camera so you can see what we got going on. Now, of course, the original version is copper, which combined with some blue apatite little gemstone beads. You also see our little nugget spacers, our new flower nugget spacers in there, which were part of the Western collection, and the Longhorn Charm, of course, and little size 8 seed beads accenting those little gemstone dangles. So this design demonstration will feature a lot of simple loops because every single one of these little dangles is a simple loop. But you know, there are ways to kind of streamline that process, and you know, it never hurts to practice your simple loops. So Shelly, no, it is not a kit. Might make a good one though. As usual, you can find the part list. I'm going to go ahead and add this link to the comments. Longhorn Teardrop. Longhorn Teardrop earrings. That should bring that up. It's also posted up in the description of the video. You can find the part list and the instructions. Oh, I think I was saying, I was talking about that the originals are in copper, which was fabulous for the designs we wanted to do for the marketing for the launch, but I'm really dying to do it in a silver. So I've got, for a pair of earrings, you need 2 of the large stitch-in teardrops, stitch-around teardrops, I should say. You need 2 posts, of course. You need 2 of the charms. You need 4 of the little nugget spacers. I'm going to go ahead and move these guys out of the way. You need 4, let's check the part list. You need 62 of our small round jump rings. So those are 4mm. They're 20 gauge-ish. It'll actually say this on here if I look. Yeah, they're 20 gauge. You need 62 of those because each one of these teardrops has 30 of those jump rings on it down at the bottom, which I've already attached. In the interest of streamlining our demonstration, I went ahead and attached those to one of the teardrops. Hello, Cindy. Thank you for popping in. You also need 2 of our larger round jump rings. These are an 18 gauge, 8mm ID. ID means the measurement on the inside of the hoop, so internal or inside diameter. These are an 8mm. So I have already attached my 30 of the small jump rings to my teardrop. I'm also going to need one of these larger ones and one more of the smaller ones when we attach the earring post at the top. I need, now again, I'm just going to jump down to per earring. You need 10 head pins. So let's get some of those out of the way. These are 3, 4, 5. These are our head pins. They're a 21 gauge. They're very sturdy. They work great for simple loops. They're a nice sturdy wire, so the simple loops stay secure. Let's see, and then we need, for each earring, we need 8 of these gemstone drops. Gemstone beads. I wanted to work with a turquoise for this version, as opposed to that lovely blue apatite. I was just dying to do a silver and turquoise version of this. So I want 8 of these per earring. This is African turquoise. Really comes if you're working, the turquoise comes in a lot of different types. African tends to be a little bit darker, can have a lot of brown mixed in. It can have a lot of variation. If you get a strand of it, you can get a lot of variation in your colors. So I'm kind of picking and choosing some of the brighter ones because some of the other ones can be quite dark. They can have a lot of black and brown in them. So I want slightly lighter ones. So I'm picking and choosing here. We need 8 of those per earring. So, and only 2 of the little flower nugget spacers. So as I mentioned, I'm going to take these earring backs off so I can just poke those posts into the mat. Then they'll stay put. As I mentioned, I already put the jump rings, most of the jump rings on there, and then this is going to be a very kind of intensive, simple loop demonstration. I have 2. I want some kind of terracotta size 8 seed beads. I forgot to mention those when we were talking about the little accents, when we were talking about the ingredients that we need. Forgot to mention those, but you can see that they accent the each dangle has a little seed bead accent as well as the gemstone. And I want a terracotta color, and I think with the silver I'm going to go with this slightly lighter one. It's a matte finish terracotta size 8 round seed bead. And I need 8 of those. Is that right? No, I need 10 per earring. And the first thing we're going to do Well, okay, if you were going to make these at home, the first thing you would want to do is open all your jump rings. You're just going to have a big old pile of jump rings. For a pair, you're going to have like 62 of the small ones and 2 of the large ones. It would be smart to just sit there and open all of those and then get them set aside. So then the next step, you might want to put all of the jump rings onto your teardrop. You might want to go ahead and get started on your dangles, and then you can attach the jump rings and the dangles sequentially, as you're going. So that's kind of up to you. Like I said, in the interest of making our demo kind of streamlined, I went ahead and attached my jump ring. So now I'm going to just set up some seed bead dangles. And these are alternated. So if you look at the original, you have a dangle, gemstone and seed bead dangle with the seed bead at the bottom. And then the next one has the gemstone first, then the seed bead. And then you got a nugget spacer dangle. And then you got those alternated gemstone and seed bead dangles again. So I'm going to be kind of mixing those up. I want, for each earring, I'm going to want 4 of each of the gemstone and seed bead situations. So 4 with the seed bead first, and then the gemstone, and then 4 with the gemstone first, and then the seed bead. Makes sense, right? I like that the kind of staggered dangles give it some nice texture. Let's see, where am I at? And I will, of course, try to catch comments and questions as they come up. If I ever don't catch one and you really have a question for me, you can always send me a message on the TierraCast Facebook page. So the little the little nugget flower spacer ones have the seed bead first and then the spacer. And I only need 2 of those. I think I might have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. I did one too many of these. So let me pull one of those apart because I robbed myself of a head pin. So let's see, that's 4. Oops, I do need one more of those. Let's get those out of the way. So I got 2 of those. Seed bead, then spacer. I got 4 of the gemstone, then seed bead. Or I should have 4. There's the other one, and 4 of the opposite. And now I'm going to start just making my simple loops. Now, because our head pins are a quite sturdy wire, some people will create their simple loops by holding getting a hold of their head pin around those pliers and then wrapping it around. That works very nicely if your wire is a little bit softer. Because our head pins are really sturdy 21 gauge, I prefer to trim and then roll my head pins. If you need a good simple loop tutorial, I'm going to put a link in the comments right now to our blog. And I hope that'll work. I better pull it up right from the website, because sometimes sometimes when you're putting in a link to something that's a page on a website, sometimes it has that backslash or that / at the end, and sometimes it doesn't. And I can never quite figure out if I should add that or not. But whether or not I do does affect whether the link goes to the page properly. So let me look for the proper link. We do have a whole section, which if you guys have been watching my demos at all, you know that I've talked about it before. We have a blog on our website that goes to that has DIY basics videos, goes to our videos, and those blogs are a nice resource. So that's what I'm putting a link in. There you go. A lot of talk. Took a long time to get it on there, but there you go. So because there's a couple of things to consider when I'm making my simple loops. One, I want my diameter of my simple loop to be close to the diameter of those little 4mm ID jump rings. So that means I want my, I'm going to be working quite high up on the jaws of my round nose pliers. And I want quite a bit of length here on my wire. And like I said, I am going to trim. So there's a theory with round nose pliers, and I think it varies because round nose pliers can have different, their jaws can be tapered differently. But there's a theory that wherever you're going to be working on your jaw, that's about how much wire length you should have. So let's test that. I'm going to go with about 3/4 of an inch of length, and I'm going to work right about here on my plier jaws. And I'm going to grab that wire, the end of that wire, just so it's right at the edge of the jaws. I can barely feel that if I run my finger over it. And then I can just roll that around. And see, that's not quite what I want. That was a little bit too much wire length. I had heard that theory and I found it to be a little iffy. So if you hear that, know that there can be some variation. So this is too long. I'm going to trim some of that off. And I'm going to grab, it's already got a nice curve to it, but I don't want the end to be quite that curved. So I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers and just straighten that tip a little bit. And then I'm going to grab my pliers again and roll that down. That's better. All right, so if you're in a project where you're making a lot of simple loops, there are tricks for making them consistent. I'm still finding that a wee bit long, so I just trimmed off a little more wire, and I'm rolling that down. And that feels like it's a pretty good loop. It's similar in size. It might be slightly smaller than my jump ring, but that's okay. So now if I want to make my each one the same, I'm going to just start trimming my wires off, and I'm going to use that trimmed off piece as a gauge. Now I did end up with a little bit extra, trimming off a little bit extra. So I have to take that into consideration. So I'm going to trim at about here. I have a measuring device tacked to the edge of my table. So this is I just measured this, it's 5/8 inch. And now I have this piece of wire that I can use to measure the rest of my, whoops, lost a bead, that I can use to measure the rest of my dangles. And that way they'll all be the same. And you see what I'm doing there? I'm just kind of letting that wire fly. That's never a good thing. You shouldn't do that. You should aim your wire down to the mat so that it just lands on the mat instead of flying away. It's not safe. If you're working in a workshop situation where there's a lot of other people seated with you, that's just dangerous. So don't do that. You need to get that little jump ring out of the way. And I'm guesstimating. This doesn't have to be a perfectly, every one exactly the same size. So I'm estimating a little bit. Yeah, Shelley's saying the theory about the length of wire and where you're working on your plier jaws. You should definitely try it. And like I said, I think that, I have some round nose pliers that just have a steeper angle on the jaws. So that's going to affect it. You just gotta experiment. And Shelley's also asking if I could use the one-step looper to make these. And in this case, not really, because the one-step looper I know that it comes in two sizes, but it makes quite small loops. And I want loops that, one, are close to the diameter of my jump ring, and two, that are roomy enough to allow for movement on this teardrop. And I don't think that the one-step loopers make large enough loops for that. So I would not choose to use them for this project. Those are really wonderful little tools, though. If you haven't used those are great. They're just easy. You kind of grab the wire with the looper and squeeze, and it makes your loop. It's kind of amazing. And you know, if you work with simple loops a lot, you get to where you can estimate your lengths, and you don't have to measure all the time. You get to where you can estimate pretty good. All right, so I have all of these prepared for making my loops. And again, I'm working kind of far up here on the jaws. And those are going to be just about right. And as I was kind of showing at the beginning, you can always adjust a little bit. If your loop is a little bit too big, if it's a little bit too small, you're kind of stuck. But if it's a little bit too big, you can trim, you can roll it again and kind of get it where you want it. Another thing that people will do if they're making a lot of simple loops and they want them to be a consistent size is they'll just take a Sharpie and make a little mark on their plier jaw of where they want to roll it so that the loop is the same size every time. But you know, you do it enough and you just kind of get a sense of where you want them. And you know, each person kind of develops their own preferred way of doing them too. I often have heard people say, no matter how long they've been making jewelry, they struggle with their simple loops. You just got to keep practicing and find the ways that work best for you. And like I said, if you are using a finer gauge wire, people do like to just roll the wire around the jaw too. And I think that works very well for people too. So I've got a whole bunch of little dangles made. I'm just going back there and kind of tidying up my loops and making sure they're fully, the round is complete. That when I close it, that little loop is going to be closed as tightly as possible down there at the end of it. It's going to be kind of buried in the design. It's going to be kind of buried in with all those jump rings. So it's not going to be, if your loops aren't quite perfect, it's not going to be that apparent. It's going to be kind of camouflaged with all of those jump rings. So that is looking pretty good to me. All of my jump rings, there are 30 jump rings on here. And the way the pattern of the earring works is I'm going to arrange my dangles. I'm looking at the original. I'm seeing that there's a seed bead first dangle, and then there's a gemstone first dangle, and then there's the nugget spacer dangle, and then those gemstone and seed bead dangles again alternated. So you got them nice little alternated pattern. Alternated? I just made up a word, guys. And then on the other side, same thing. You've got the alternated. I'm having a hard time with that word. Alternated patterns. There you go. So I'm going to start at one end and just open up that loop and pop it onto one side of the teardrop. close that down. And then I'm going to move that out of my way, and I'm going to slide 3 jump rings up next to it. And then I can add the second one. The trick here is just keeping the jump rings from sliding in and ruining the count as I'm attaching. But you know what? They're just jump rings. If I got the wrong number of jump rings, in the wrong place, that's a pretty easy fix. I either just pop the jump ring off and put it where it needs to be, or I'll pop the dangle off and put it where it needs to be. So you can see there's a dangle, 3 jump rings, dangle, 3 jump rings, dangle, and I'm just attaching them in that order. Whoops, now I just see that all those jump rings slid down there, so I got to count again. And 3 more. 2, 3. And that brings me, that 4 gemstone dangles and 1 spacer dangle brings me to down to the center, the bottom center. And here's where we're going to have, oops, that's a poorly closed jump ring. Or simple loop, let me fix that. And that's where at the center bottom, we want 6 jump rings. I'm just going to slide those 6. And then what'll happen then is that we'll use that larger jump ring and we'll attach the charm in between at the center of those 6 jump rings. So there'll be 6 at the bottom. And then we start the pattern on the other side. It would also be fun. I mean, we're focusing on gemstones. Oops, my seed bead's trying to fall off. And it succeeded. Let me get that back on there. We focused a lot with gemstones for this particular group of designs for this product launch. But I could also see this working really nicely with some fire polished check glass beads. That they just come in such a wonderful array of colors. I think you could really find some nice beads with some nice check glass beads to work with this design as well. I have seen this type of kind of clustery earring with a lot of beads kind of clustered at the bottom. I have seen designs like this with just a real mix of colors too, and that's really fun. Just a mix, almost a bead soup approach. All right, so what's happening here? I'm working on attaching my final. Yeah, my last one. So it's just going on the outside of that last group of 3 seed beads. And there we go. All right, so I got them on double checking. I want to see that I got all of those in order. You can see how some of these African turquoise gemstones are really dark. If I was to do this again, I'd probably choose a slightly lighter one for that last one. But, and this one's got quite a bit of blue in it, so that's kind of fun. I guess that mixing them up, there's nothing wrong with that. So now I'm going to take that 8mm jump ring and that section of seed beads jump rings down at the bottom, that 6th, This one's going to go right in between there. And that's where I'm going to attach the, oh, sorry, I had to reach for my other pliers. That's where I'm going to attach the Longhorn Charm. And then the very last step is to take another one of those 4mm ones and just attach your post at the top. And you do want to pay attention to which way you're attaching it, because of course you want it facing forward with the Longhorn Charm, right? So pay attention to that as you're attaching the little post. And there you go. You know, hold on a second. I'm going to see if I can find something. Well, I thought I might have, I was talking briefly about using check glass with these, and I thought I might have a sample of that I did. I did a gold version, but I don't have that around. I thought that would be fun to show. Unfortunately, I don't have it. So that's it. I am really wanting to replace these two because they don't feel, you know, I said it's great to mix it up, but I think that a more kind of cohesive group in the same palette is better. So I'm just going to make a couple more dangles with a better choice of gemstone bead, and I'm going to replace those. So I'm feeling picky today. You know, you could also take the approach of taking your strand of African turquoise beads and just using them randomly, whatever shows up, you know. But I'm being particular today, so. Designer's choice, right? If I want to be particular, I can. If I was going to be making a whole bunch of these, like many pairs of these earrings, I might probably go with the more random approach so that I wouldn't drive myself crazy, you know? All right, so we're replacing this one. And this super dark one over here. There, I'm happier with that. That makes me happier. So there you go. These are, Lynn is asking what size these little gemstone beads are, and they are about 4. You know, they're gemstone, and there's a little variation. It's possible you would even call them 5. I don't happen to have the packaging for them. They probably came in a package with the description. They're a little sort of a faceted cube, and they are, yeah, about 4.5. And those original blue apatite ones, they were slightly smaller, a little bit closer to 4. So I think that the instructions, the part list says, what did I put on there? 4mm faceted cube. So just know that they can be 4 to 5mm. A 6mm bead might be getting too chunky for the design. So you'd want to stick with 4 to 5 millimeter. So I don't know about you guys, but I love the turquoise version. I've been wanting to do that. So there we go. I like it. I'll work on the second one, of course. Hey, wait a minute. Look at this. I'm being picky again. I'm finding that I did one. I messed up my alternating here, and I ended up with an out of pattern one. But you know what? I'll fix that later. You guys don't need to see me deal with that. And if I wasn't being so picky today, I might not have even noticed it. But we'll fix it later. I am going to work on the other, on the second earring, because I do like these very much. And so, you know, sometimes I do a demo and I'll end up doing one of a pair, and then it just sort of gets filed away and I don't do the second one. In this case, I'll definitely do it, because this is a pair that I will probably wear. So thank you guys for coming and hanging out and watching this demo. As you already know, you can find the instructions and the part list for these, for this design on the TierraCast website. And if you do make a variation, feel free to share it with us. You can post pictures on the TierraCast Facebook page, and we'd love to see them. Or Instagram, and just tag us. And we absolutely love to see the work that you guys do. So, I mean, we do these videos to inspire you. So it's a nice circle when you guys share with us what you make. So, all right. So thanks, and have a great Tuesday. And I hopefully will see you next Tuesday with another demo. And have a great week. Make lots of great stuff. Bye now.